We've got Louise and Mark joining us today. So we'll kick off. I'm conscious that we are in between you and end of drinks and networking, so let's see how we go. But I suppose just a little bit of an introduction. Maybe ladies first. Louise, a little bit about who you are, where you're from, where do you work?
Hi, I'm Louise Fischer. I'm from the Art Gallery of New South Wales. I've been there way too long, 26 years. I'm kind of a Jill of all trades, a mistress of none there. I run the governance and services. So I've been working in records for that time, but more as an overview. So some of the work that I heard today goes straight over my little head. But I am at the coalface of integrating and trying to look at what we've been discussing before, some really disparate silos as far as record keeping is concerned.
Yes, no, Abdullah summed that up well. And Mark?
Yeah, I've been working in state government, so state government in WA, so I'm a sandgroper. First time back to Sydney in about 15 years for me, so it's quite nice to come over and check it out again. So I'm the Information Governance Manager at North Metro TAFE. We're the largest TAFE institution in WA, have about 1,600 staff. Been there just over 2 years. I have been a TRIM administrator, we'll say TRIM, for over 20 years and got into management, and now of course we're in privacy, information governance, sort of the A to Z of record keeping, and now we're in the privacy side, data loss prevention, information classification, and pretty much the works on that. So very enjoyable. It's a moving feast, and I guess we have to keep learning, and it has been an enjoyable journey in the last 20 years. Being an educational institution as well, we do teach cybersecurity and information management, and pretty much record keeping as well. So we do have access to decent funding, which is good for us. Still a small team, but we do the best we can.
Nice. Now, obviously, Abdullah talked about it before, both of you using we'll call it Fusion. There's 4 or 5 names we could say about it, but the core data discovery and risk insights. Maybe Louise, I suppose the question for you is around your primary challenges that you were faced that sort of took you down the journey.
Curators.
Staff. People.
Staff. Look, I think I've said it before. De Gaulle once says, how to unite a country with over 300 brands of cheese. Our gallery is a bit like that, and I suppose every organisation thinks that. But, the thing is that we've got a situation as an art gallery, we've got curators that like to keep things to their chest. They've kept things in U drives and diaries for ever. SharePoint absolutely sends them running for the hills. So we've got things with COVID. We moved into SharePoint too quickly. It was kind of like a fire sale, bang. But people still kept things in the G and M drives and U drives. And in a way, I feel like stuff is like people are putting in my analogy is your grandmother's garage. So they leave all this stuff in the grandmother's garage and it goes mouldy, but they still won't throw it out. And so it's just looking at trying to tidy that up before we get into a system where we move things systematically into SharePoint or tidy up what's already there. And then the prong after that is a proper integration with Content Manager, but we are so in baby steps. And it is just, as I said, we just have that kind of disparate silo mentality.
Yeah, and I think everyone's like that. I coined a phrase that it was the Teams pandemic. Obviously, because of the pandemic, we just moved everything from somewhere to somewhere else, and the problem still exists. So.
And the trouble is, we need a lot of carrots because you can't use a big stick on these people because it's you can throw policy, you can throw legislation at you, you can throw the fact that there's a compliance, there's an audit coming from state records, and that the director will get into trouble, and it's like, I've got an exhibition to hang, don't give me details. So that's the kind. So it's like gently prizing them into that world of records, yeah.
And Mark, obviously from your perspective?
Our synergies are quite incredible with the art gallery. We have, instead of curators, we have lecturers.
Yes.
It is almost an identical journey. The only thing we did when COVID hit was actually get rid of the share drives, but now we have a massive proliferation of files and subfolders, and it's like octopuses mating in Teams. There is stuff everywhere, and we have a lot of lecturers who love using their OneDrive because they're very important, and nobody else wants to see what they've been doing. So there's a massive, just I guess probably not as much with the Art Gallery, but there's a very, very large quality assurance audit program with teaching. Obviously teaching tertiary education, our lecturers have to go through it. The trouble with our quality assurance team is they can't find anything. So we have been working very, very hard to wrest them out of their OneDrives, out of Teams, and get them into SharePoint, into a unified sites. So we have operations sites, we have leadership sites, and then we have qualification sites as well. It's baby steps for us. We have 1,300 academic staff versus 300 support, and we're, we say, chipping away.
And I was going to say, so your journeys have been slightly different, and again, every journey that we go through with customers in this way is all unique. They have similar patterns, but they all sort of go in their own space. So, Louise, from your perspective, how did you get into this journey? The proof of value, working through it, starting slowly. Mark jumped in, but that was...
No, look, it's sort of strange because we sort of had a conversation with you over a number of years and it just kept going into abeyance, and then we were able to get a little bit of funding because I think one of the talks yesterday was about the problem with getting government funding. You can get a little bit, a tiny bit, but you can't actually get things for a proper project. So we started to realise, like, if I use one more metaphor, we eat the elephant one bite at a time. Yep. And so we started to realise that talking to you, there's a couple of prongs, but we needed to tidy up our data and stop people moving things to SharePoint. And I needed to start looking at a thing called a file plan if we did, which actually had a retention schedule in the back, but that's your blue sky thing towards the end. So we started sort of saying, what with OpenText, we do the new fancy name. With Fusion, what it is. So we started doing scans, and we interviewed all the different internal stakeholders, and some were easy, and the ones that we thought would be really easy, a nightmare. The finance and the HR. Oh, yeah. No, it doesn't make sense. We've got to do it this way. Right, okay. I have to keep this. No. And then some of the curators departments were quite easy, but we'd show them the scan and say, this is over. This is your duplicates, this is your obsolete. Now, obsolete means over 7 years. Same with use, that doesn't mean you get rid of it because certain retentions, we have a state records requirement to keep things as archives. So a research paper or an exhibition file will be retained, but it just gives us an idea. The duplicate scared the living bejesus out me. But so we started to get better at slicing and dicing and saying, okay, why don't we just look at the low-hanging fruit, which is duplicates over 10 years old? Get rid of thousands of those. Great. Then we'll start. So we started
to chunk it down.
We started to chunk it down. And then what was also happening is that the fire sale was people were cleaning out grandma's garage. So we had to be careful to stop them doing it when we were scanning. So suddenly it's like this, okay, I can get rid of this and I can get rid of this. Then you started looking at things over 10 years old. I know how to find it. Yeah, but you and I have been there, this person, the same amount of time. When you and I win lotto and move on, who's going to be able to find it? We found in these old records, loan agreement. What's that mean? Well, I know what it is because it's in that folder. So what happens if the system crashes? And this is what we found through Fusion. What happens if the system crashes and we can recover all the files but not the directories that they were in, which is possible in this new world? We'd have to open them all and then rename them. Okay, so why don't we get rid of the duplicates, rename them? Okay, we'll go and do that. So the project is fantastic because it's not a magic bullet that you use Fusion. You have to use it with other people, but
hard work
as a hard work. But sometimes it pushes people into doing some cleaning, and they say, "Okay, now you've cleaned. Let's have another swipe and see what's left." So when I talked about this about 6 months ago or 5 months ago, I was still very, very green. I still only know about this much on how to use the tool, but what's happening now is that we're able to kind of take people on the journey to understand and at the same time try and work with, and they also, I'll just move, one person did do it, moved 83,000 records, and that's a lot for us, from the G drive into SharePoint, just lock, stock and barrel. And I'm going like, well, that defeats that whole purpose, doesn't it? So,
I was going to say, sorry, segue just to Mark.
Mark, sorry.
So Mark, not answering that question, but there's a little dude on the screen called Cedric. Now, obviously, do you want to explain where that came from?
Yeah, it's reasonably obvious. Trying to say core data discovery risk insights.
Well done.
SDRI. We decided, I actually use Copilot. And I'm not going to talk about AI, but, well, I will for this one. I used Copilot to say, for SDRI, gave it the entire manual of SDRI and what it does, and said, can you come up with some acronyms? I'll come up with an acronym, and for each of the letters of SDRI. And this is the best result I got. It's decent. It's very. I think it's pretty much explains exactly what it does. Now, the little dude is basically there to raise information governance awareness around TAFE. We do have a lot of augmented reality and VR stuff going on. Then there's robotics as well in North Metro. So having a little robot, he can't really see it, but he has a tool belt on as well. So he's cruising around all the systems, fixing up the issues. He's got a pair of scissors to cut out the stuff you don't need. As an example, we have about 54 fillable forms in for students and staff as well. And out of that, there's about probably 35 or so that have the ability to capture sensitive personal information. That includes health information, medical, disability, etc., etc. And one of our key drivers was the Privacy Act coming in for WA, and that was quite easy for us to scare corporate executive and to let them know that with the Privacy Act coming in, we did a bit of a sampling, and obviously talking to Carl and getting some of his insights and previous experience into what is actually sitting in our repositories. It is horrifying, and it wasn't too hard to get that corporate backing and a little bit of funding. So through the government procurement process, which is quite slow. WA, if anyone doesn't know what it actually means, it does mean wait a while, generally. It is a long way away.
Yep.
But we are chipping away, and we're really starting to get some inroads.
And I suppose there might be some people in the room here, and just a quick sentence on what would be a key takeaway for you for somebody looking to start this journey in this space. Louise? Oh,
you go first.
Quick sentence.
You've been going first.
Oh, gosh.
You said the eating of the elephant. Don't try and swallow the whole thing.
Don't try. You're not going to do. I mean, some organisations might have a more cohesive thing, and you've got a better data governance due to from the top down. It's getting buy-in, and it's getting buy-in from some. We've got a few people that are champions. Our conservation department, we're an unusual bunch of champions, and and our registration department are promising to actually tidy up their files and also help me with a proper file management plan. So it is one step at a time.
Champions for you.
Yeah, it's champions, and also just the lots of carrots.
And Mark, from you?
The key one for us is reducing the risk. We did have an information breach last year, which was actually due to the Optus leak. It was a bit of a SIM swap scheme, and there was probably about 3 hours of someone getting into our network, and about 85 documents
untoward stuff
were taken, and about 60 emails. Luckily, we didn't completely ruin our reputation. We didn't lose any money. So this product has been it has been very, very good for us to get into our repositories, but also actually uncover what we have. It's actually quite insane when you think about how much duplication's there. As an example, with the forms I was talking about before, we may have a form that comes in, somebody emails it to another person and goes, "Oh no, it's not my job." So it's in their sent items. They might do that 3 or 4 times, and of course then somebody prints it out and then scans it, and then it's in another system. So we've got old systems that I won't get into it. I know we're running out of time, but
no, definitely no. And again, I suppose from our perspective, again, a little bit of insight. You guys will still be around. Obviously, have a chat to anyone. Again, appreciate you sharing your thoughts and just a little bit of a very short, big picture of sort of what you've done and where you've got to. So really appreciate your time. But thank you very much for both of you.
Thanks for inviting us.